Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessing to the hopeful elect. The name that you just heard me say there is the true name of the Heavenly Father, which his name in the ancient Hebrew is Yahweh. Bahasham is in the name, and the other name that you just heard me say is the true name of the Son of the Heavenly Father, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. His name also is a Hebrew name, which is Yahweh Shai, right? Racha Kodash, which is the Holy Spirit, which is given unto us from on high by the Heavenly Father through his Son, for us to have the proper understanding of the scriptures that we have today. So, just wanted to do a news and prophecy video. Just found some articles off of End Time Headlines. Lord's willing, this will be edifying, so let's go through them. Right, which essentially, all of them essentially lead to, when you just summarize this whole lesson, is essentially all roads are leading to a digital ID, things being more digital, and that's essentially leading you down the way of the MOTB, which is written of in Revelation, Revelation chapter 13 and verse 16. Some people may say, oh my God, you guys speak on the same thing over and over. This is so boring. Where's the new stuff? Well, hey, this is what's written. This is what's written to happen. As is written of in Habakkuk, the second chapter, the vision is set for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak, and these things are speaking. This is why we are speaking on these things now, right? We see the vision more clearer and clearer. Because if you look and get out of your bubble of life, you will see that, hey, they're all saying the same thing. It's not just the Hebrew Israelites saying it. Hey, they're even saying it as well. That, hey, they're pushing for things to be digital. I was kind of talking to somebody this past weekend at work. It was Sunday, about things, being more digital. So everybody can see, if you get out of your bubble, right? And certain people, if they're not too, involved in their bubble life, you can see that everything is going digital, right? And we got a little bit into talking about like GMOs and things like that. Right? Not too heavy conversation, but it shows you that his brain is working up there. He's aware of things. He's not oblivious, as opposed to some people that are oblivious, or some people that want to stay oblivious because, oh my God, this is too hard. Well, like it says again in Habakkuk, the second chapter, the vision is set for an appointed time, and at the end it will speak. And I have a saying that I like to say. Maybe a brother has said it before in the spirit, so I apologize. Eventually, these are no longer going to be pages on a book. You're going to be living prophecy. We're no longer going to be getting, let's just use the example, Revelation 13 and 16, right? And he calls it all. No, you're going to be living he calls it all, which we're in that part right now, right? And then it's no longer going to be to receive a mark. People are going to be receiving it. You're going to see these things. It's no longer going to be pages on the book, but a reality. And that's what we're stepping into. So with this first article, it says Gen X may be the first to need a universal basic income from AI threat to careers. All right, so let's go through this article. It says, as artificial intelligence continues to reshape the workforce, concerns are mounting about its impact on white-collar professionals, particularly those with mid to late career stages. Recent analysis indicate that up to half of all white-collar jobs could vanish due to AI advancements, leaving many workers in a precarious position. So with the rise of AI, again, AI is more efficient. Something I like to say is that AI doesn't need to sleep, it doesn't need to eat, it doesn't need vacation, right? Whereas people need these things. So if AI is able to do something more proficient, faster, and it doesn't need to sleep, it doesn't need to eat, it doesn't need vacation, why would you hire people, right? Because remember, these businesses are all about making money, right? So if you're all about making money, hey, it's nothing personal, it's just business. So with that, I need to keep my business up and running. And if I want to, compete out there, right, make sure that my business stays afloat, I need to do what's best for my business. Hence, it's not personal, it's just business. So if I have to fire a couple of people off of my job, or off of my business, to make sure that my business is more efficient with AI, then businesses and companies are going to do that, especially with certain hirees that you may get, and some of them are not, I had a word in my head, but I totally forgot it. Well, let's just use, for lack of a better word, reliable. They're not as reliable and things like that. Well, why would I keep them? One that's very easy for me to think of is like security. Security it's not a good job. After working security for 10 years, I would advise you make your money while working security and look for something else. But to me, security is a very easy job to integrate AI into, because with security, you get a lot of people that really don't want to do security, a lot of bullshit officers or security guards, right? People that kind of just take the job for nothing, because it is essentially a job that's nothing, right? Now, hey, you work security, you make your money, you do your thing, whatever have you. But to me, that is a very easy job to just integrate AI, because again, you have a lot of security guards where it's easy for you to get in, get out. It's easy for you to get fired, because any little thing that happens, it's easy for them to place it on a guard, right? So with that, if you have like a establishment of things like that, we'll just integrate AI. So it's like, look, if you're going to get in here, you need to have access. The AI interface, or however it's going to be programmed, is not just going to let anybody in the building. Right. Whereas security can make that mistake. Like, let's say you may not have been on the job for a certain day, or hey, it was your day off, and something may have happened on the job that you didn't know, right? You wasn't informed, or maybe you just overlooked. And then somebody comes in the building that wasn't supposed to be there, and they're like, hey man, why'd you let this guy in? He's not supposed. And it's like, hey, my bad, man. I didn't know. Right? Something may have happened. Well, with AI, that's not going to happen. AI could immediately spot them, like, hey, you're not allowed access into this building. See, it's a lot more efficient. It's a lot more quicker. Whereas somebody can make, human error based upon either their lackadaisicalness, or they just didn't know, right? Whereas AI will be on the spot with that. So to me, security is one of those jobs where it's a lot easier to integrate it and a lot easier to fire people off of that because of things like that, just to use that simple example. So continuing, it says this scenario echoes the experiences of baby boomers during the 2008, Great Recession, but Generation X faces even greater vulnerabilities, potentially making them the first cohort to require widespread support like universal basic income. Which, when you think of universal basic income, another word for universal, right? And this is what they're talking about, right? Which is tying into the digital ID, right? Which essentially is walking you down the road to the MOTB. When you think of universal, another word for universal is common, right? So you could say common basic income, right? And if something is common, that means that it is not foreign to you, to her, to him. It is common. It is universal, right? Or let's just I want to stick with that word common. It is common to the likes of you and I. It is not foreign to me or you. We both have the same thing, right? So if it is universal or common basic income, that means that everybody has the same thing. And that is showing you their mindset of where they're pushing for the MOTB, written of in Revelation 13 and 16, right? Because when you go to it, that is something that is universal or common. Revelation chapter 13 and verse 16. And he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, right? This is going to be something common, right? It's not going to be something that is foreign to the rich. It's not going to be something that is only to the poor. It is going to be common amongst the small and little alike. See? It's very simple. It's right there in your face. That's why it's important to it's important to have an understanding of words. That's why I want to express the word common, because again, another word for universal is common. If something is universal, meaning that it is all around, right? Everybody, right? So therefore that word is common, meaning that what? It is common. It's not foreign to anybody. It is universal. It's common to all alike. And that's essentially how the MOTB is going to be. That's why it says in Revelation, if I'm not mistaken, chapter 3 and verse 10. Let's get it real quick because I have a feeling I'm going to butcher it. I feel like I'm going to butcher a couple of words, actually. Right? Excuse me. Revelation chapter 3 and verse 10. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation. See? So you have to keep the word of the Lord's patience, right? You have to stay in this faith, stay in this truth. And for doing that, you're going to be rewarded by what? The Lord keeping you, right? Watching over you during the hour of temptation, right? He's going to feed you, deliver you, however it may be, right? Help give you a strong mind to endure the temptation, as is written of, in 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 13. There had no temptation taken you, but such as common to man. But the Most High is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way that ye are able to bear it. Right? So, continuing, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world. See, so this is going to be a universal or a common temptation. Something that is not foreign to anybody, but is common to all. Right? Which shall come upon all the world. And if I'm not mistaken, the word world there should be oikomene. I just want to make sure of that. Yes, oikomene. Which means the inhabited earth, the whole earth. So this is going to be a universal or a common, right, temptation to try them that dwell upon the earth. So when you start hearing things like universal basic income, understand that I'm not saying that is the MOTB, no. But it is showing you how they're creating something that is going to be universal or common to everybody. And that's essentially what the MOTB is, right? It is going to be something that becomes universal or common to everybody, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. That is common. That is not foreign to anybody. No, I don't believe I'll read through the whole thing, but let's continue reading through. It says, drawing from insights in a new book titled American Idol, The Late Career Job Loss in Neoliberal Era, authors Annette, not saying that last name, don't know how to say that, and Dana Shawchuk, hopefully I'm pronouncing that one correctly, explore the fallout from job losses among older workers. Their research, based on interviews with 62 baby boomers who lost white-collar positions post-2008, reveal stark disparities in outcomes. Statistics from that era highlight that workers over 50 suffered the highest rates of long-term unemployment. As one interviewee poignantly described the dilemma, too young to retire, but too old to start over again. And what does that sound like? That sounds like Luke 21 and 25. If you're too old to start over, I'm sorry, what does it say? It says too young to retire, but too old to start over. So that puts you in a certain position where it's like, what the hell do I do? Luke chapter 21 and verse 25, and there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. When you go into that word perplexity, Greek word there is aporia, which says what? To be at a loss with oneself, to be in doubt, to not to know how or to decide what to do. So, like the person said, too young to retire, too old to start over. So it's like I'm in a predicament of I don't know what to do. And that's a lot of people's mindsets with the whole AI takeover, if you will, and they're losing their jobs because of AI. So it's like, and this is not something where it's okay, it's just over there. No, this is spreading across to all facets, all job types. So that's going to leave people in a state of perplexity, not knowing what to do. Especially if you have a family, that's going to put you in a more, this may sound a little silly, but more perplexed mind, more perplexity, because it's like there is more pressure on you as opposed to, which I personally just don't like having excuses just in general, but a man, I'm gonna kind of hate saying this, but a man who has, children, a wife and kids has a little bit more pressure on him than opposed to a person who is single. Apologies. I just have to explain my anger and frustration there a little bit. Is because I play the video game with somebody and they always like just giving me this fucking excuse with their kids, and I just hate it. So I just a person that just hates excuses. So I apologize for that. It is true that a person that has kids has more pressure on them, but we all have pressure, right? Don't argue with me. But a person who has a wife and kids has a lot more pressure and things like that. There's a lot more ground they have to cover, a lot more things that they have to worry about, as opposed to a person who is single, but we still have pressure as well. So with that, that's going to put you in a more of a worrisome mindset and things like that, because you're not just thinking about yourself. You got to think about your wife. You got to think about the kids and things like that. So that is going to put more stress on your mind, more worry, a more burdensome weight to carry. But single people have burdens too. So, where is it? Yep. So again, too young to retire, but too old to start over again. This sentiment resonates today as Gen Xers confront similar challenges amid AI-driven disputes. The boomers' experience fell into two categories: hard falls and soft landings. Those enduring hard falls often face prolonged unemployment, which is something that still happens even to this day, multiple job losses, and severe financial hardships, including reliance on food pantries, welfare, or even home foreclosures. In contrast, soft landings allowed individuals to emerge relatively unscathed thanks to factors like generous severance packages from years of job stability, defined benefit pensions that enabled early retirement, and support from family members such as working spouses or affluent parents. However, Gen Xers are poised for tougher times compared to their predecessors, unlike boomers who entered a labor market offering job security and financial perk. Today's white-collar workers are urged to constantly seek new opportunities, leading to shorter tenures and smaller severances. So they're leading on the side of more hard landings, if I'm not mistaken, is what the phrase was there. Hard falls, excuse me. All right, so things are a lot more difficult than they were in the past, right? It's a lot harder for people to find jobs, and then on top of that, when they get let go, they're not getting those severance package. So, and then a lot of people may not have financially stable family members. And then there's also another aspect that you have to think about, is that some people have just burned bridges with their family. That's another aspect. It may not always be the aspect of, hey, family members may not be able to help. Hey, family members may want to help or may have the ability to help. But the problem is that some people have burned bridges with their family members. So therefore, they don't have that access to that help from certain family members or even friends because of burning certain bridges. So that makes things even more tougher. I believe we'll stop right here. It says pensions have largely given away to 401k plans, which shift risk onto individuals through personal investments vulnerable to market fluctuations and financial inexperience. Low-wage workers frequently lack access to these plans altogether or can't afford to contribute, due to hardship. Compounding these issues, Gen Xers' collective net worth is roughly half that of boomers, burdened by higher debt levels and threaten comfortable retirements. So, but the main part of this article is again that saying of what Gen Xers may be the first to need a universal or common basic income, from AI threat to careers. And again, when you go into Revelation 13 and 16, what? Both small and great, free and bond, right? All shall receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. It is something that is universal. It is something that is common to everybody, not foreign to the rich or not only the poor having access to it, but it is common amongst all, and it's going to be a common temptation. See? So when you hear things like universal basic income, understand that that is leading to the prophecy written in Revelation 13 and 16. All right, which let's get this one. I'm not too sure if I may get into that one. I may leave that for another day. But you have here, which actually I found this off of BBC News. I'd rather use it here. All right. But let me use what they say. So it says first the UK, now Switzerland embrace digital ID because they have this wording here as the B system is falling into place. And that's essentially what it is. But I wanted it off of the BBC News instead. Right, so first it was UK, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe the man's name that came out with the when he was on the podium talking, his name was Keir Starmer. If I'm saying that correctly, his first name correctly, I think it's Keir Starmer. And basically, saying that everybody, it's mandatory, right? They want to put a policy or put something in place where it's mandatory that you have a digital ID, right? And now Switzerland is following suit as well, except I believe Switzerland is making it voluntary for now. So it says Switzerland voters have narrowly approved a plan to introduce voluntary electronic identity cards, which is, again, like I was saying a little earlier when I was talking to the coworker this past weekend at work. He even is able to realize that, hey, everything is going digital. So you're seeing more of digital. Ever since the end of 2019, going until now, 2025, that word digital, right? Or things that have been, for lack of a better word, or saying digital acts. And what do I mean by digital acts? You're hearing universal basic income, the, the Amazon Palm payments, things like that, right? So all this type of biometrics, things dealing with your body, things being digital, it's showing you the direction, right? As it says in Revelation 13 and 16, poeo, which poeo means to form, to fashion, to construct, right? So they're constructing society in the direction that they want to go, where it's going to be biometrics and digital. And that's essentially what the MOTB is all about. It's a small device the size of a grain of rice that's going to have your information on it that's going to allow you or give you access to function in society. And you will not be able to buy or sell, right, or function in society, which save means unless you have that. And that's where they're showing, right? And that man, Keir Starmer, when you're saying that everybody must have this, showing you that what they want to make it mandatory. But Switzerland is going the route of making it voluntary. But that's how it's going to start off. It's going to start off voluntary, then it's going to be mandatory. So continuing, with all votes counted, 50.4% of those who voted said yes to the proposal, while 49.6% rejected it. The closeness of the ballot is a surprise. Opinion polls have suggested up to 60% backed digital IDs, which also had the approval of the Swiss government and both houses of parliament. It was Switzerland's second vote on digital IDs. An earlier proposal was rejected in 2021 amid concerns the data would be held centrally and controlled largely by private providers. Which that's essentially what it is, because who's going to have your information? Even, what's his name? Yuval, there's so many characters, so many of them. It's Keir Starmer, Yuval Noah Harari. I apologize if I sometimes forget them. Klaus Schwab. But the man that I'm speaking about is Yuval Noah Harari. And I don't know what the name of the place or the thing was. It wasn't like TED Talks or whatever, but another guy's Bill Gates, but he was talking. I remember the background was blue, and he was saying essentially that the elites, in so many words, he was like literally telling you the truth right there, is that the elites, whoever controls the data, controls everything. So if you put everybody's data on something, and if a certain group of people or a small group of people have that data, that means that small group of people control that data and essentially control you and control every aspect about you. And if everything about you is also tied to that, they now have power over you, essentially making them like a god over you. And in that interview, Lord's willing, I would like to do a lesson off that, Lord's willing. And I would like to find that. Um, that place where he was talking. He was standing up on a podium, if I'm not mistaken. I believe the background was blue, with like a brain kind of like in the way as like a cloud as well, if I'm not mistaken. But essentially, that's to just keep it very short and simple for you. That's essentially what he was saying in the interview, is that whoever controls the data controls everything. He was even mentioning the elites. So if you now take this, or tie in yourself with this digital ID, right? You are now tying yourself to the grid. You're now putting all your information out there for them to have. And hey, now this private group or this small group of people now have your information and now control you, right? You have now given them access to you and now given them a way to say, hey, you can do this or you can't do this, right? Think of it like this, right? I'm going to use an example that's easy for me to understand. I'm sorry, not easy for me to understand, easy for me to break down to you, but you can use other examples. Think of it like this, right? Video games, right? Now, every video game has its TOS, right? TOS meaning terms of service. And if you break those terms of service, or if you do anything that, let's just use the word breaks those terms of service, they can reprimand you or deal with you in a way that they see fit. Let's use video games like Marvel Rivals, right? Or even Call of Duty, right? Those type of MMO games, those type of games that are online, right? Where you interact with other people. Pardon my language, but if you call somebody a bitch ass nigga or a faggot or something like that, a derogatory term online, right? They pick it up. This person now, you're speaking to them, right? Let's say they go 2-15 or something. You bitch ass nigga, you fucking suck. That's why you're at the fucking bottom, you faggot. You say something like that. They hear that, right? Even though they may not have their mic on, they hear that. You lose the game. The score is, let's say, 200 to, using Call of Duty, for example. The score is 200 to 100, right? And you were just feeding, right? 2-15, right? Person gets on the mic, you bitch ass nigga, you fucking faggot. That's why you fucking suck. Stop playing the fucking game. You suck. Go play zombies or something like that, right? You have now just offended somebody using derogatory terms such as nigga, bitch ass, faggot, and things like that. So now, right, if when you accept the game and they have that, they do show you their terms of service and you say, yeah, I agree to all that. And hey, if you break anything, that long list that you just scroll down your analog stick on the right analog stick and you just scroll all the way down and just say, I agree to conditions and all that, yeah, that's their TOS. And if you break any of that, and if you say anything that they disagree with on the Call of Duty side or whatever, they hear that and you get reported, they can now say, hey, you broke terms of services. We can ban you for a couple of days, or we can, just get you off our servers in general. However they see fit to deal with you. And it's the same thing. Once you agree to this digital ID, right, by, putting yourself into it, or the MOTB by taking it, you have now agreed technically to their terms of service. And now at any point, if you do something that they don't like, they now have the power over you to say, hey, we can do this. Now, I'm not saying that the MOTB is going to come with TOS, terms of services, but essentially that's the same idea, right? If you play video games, that's why they always have that long list that everybody, even myself included, scroll past, and you just push your analog stick down and just pass everything and say, yes, I agree to conditions. Even if you didn't read it, you still agreed to the conditions. So if you do anything, right, you mod their game in a way that they don't like, they're able to ban you. So if you do anything that the elites don't like, they're able to, do things to you. Hey, you're not going to get food. You're not going to have access to this. See? So it is giving power over to private individuals. Right. It says citizens continue to use national identity cards if they choose, which has been standard for decades in Switzerland. To further ease privacy concerns, a particular authority seeking information on a person, such as proof of age or nationality, for example, will only be able to check for those specific details. It comes after the UK government announced plans earlier this week to introduce its own digital ID, which would be mandatory for employment, as part of efforts to curb the number of illegal migrants living and working in the country. The proposed proposed British digital ID, would have fewer intended uses than the Swiss version, but has still raised concerns about privacy and data security. Supporters of the Swiss system say it will make life much easier for everyone, allowing a range of bureaucratic procedures from getting a telephone contract to proving you are old enough to buy a bottle of wine to happen quickly online. Opponents of digital ID cards, who gathered enough signatures to force another referendum on the issue, argued that the measures could still undermine individual privacy. So there's still that individual privacy, but again, once you do that, you are giving away your essentially freedom. Same thing, that's why I use the example of a video game. That block that they show you, they have policies, and if you break them, that's their terms of service. They're able to deal with you in the way that they see fit. Even jobs to a degree have that as well. Hey, you're supposed to follow these lists of rules. If you don't do it, we have, depending on the offense, we could either, either fire you, or hey, you're gonna have to take a leave of absence for a couple of days, right? You're gonna have to go a couple of days without pay to kind of, enforce and show you that, hey, we don't allow this type of stuff to happen. Or you just may be removed from the job site. So that is that article. So again, you see that they are moving towards the way of digital ID payments, right? Things being digital, right? Universal basic income. UK specifically, making it mandatory for digital IDs. I apologize about the noise outside. Switzerland is now making it voluntary, but eventually that will lead to the way of it being mandatory, right? There's going to be certain pressures, certain things that happen that eventually, screw it. Or just in general, hey, this is a lot more convenient. Why are we making it mandatory? This is too convenient. Just make it mandatory now. Right? It's the same thing like with me with those because I take the train, those Omni things, the Omni machines. It used to be the machines where the old machines where you could you could use your Metro card and stuff like that. They've done away with that completely. It was like for a couple of months now they've taken over, or where it's now mandatory to use those Omni machines. It's like the silver and black machines. But it used to be the old Metro card machines where you would, you could put money on your Metro card and stuff like that. You could refill it. Now you have to use those Omni machines, which it's kind of forced me now because I don't understand that Omni machine. And anytime you ask any of the workers, they don't know how to really know what to tell you either. It seems like they're confused on it as well. But when it comes to those machines, or now it has kind of forced me to use my credit card, which is kind of forcing you to use things digitally, to use my credit card to take the bus or the train now. But when it comes to those machines, it used to be like before they completely took over or replaced the machines, in the train stations usually, unless it's a bigger one, you would usually have two machines. And they replaced one at first, right? They put one Omni machine there and still kept the old system there. But then eventually they just removed it and put two machines there. And now certain train stations that I be at, I just only see those Omni machines now. So I could show you what I mean. Omni. Let me see if I put... Okay, that's definitely not it. Let me put Omni MTA. Or is it this? Yeah, it's this machine right here. Right? So essentially before, okay, perfect. This is a perfect picture. Before, you see the machines on your far right and your far left. That's what some of them did, right? At first, they replaced just one machine with one of the Omni machines that you see in the middle. But then over time, they replaced, but I'm like, oh shit, what the hell? Like, because it came at a point where I need to put money on my card as well. I'm like, oh, well, great. Now these both of these machines now. And anytime you talk, like I said, to workers, they don't really seem to know what to tell you how to work it. It's always just like this very confusing thing. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just use my credit card to just, because you can use your card as you see here or your phone. You just put it on the machine thing and then there you go. You could, it'll take money off of your card or whether it be your phone. But yeah, that is the way that we're going. Again, showing you these articles. I'll save the other one for another, because the Lord's willing, I have some other stuff. But, or actually, I could save it for that Yuval Noah Harari joint. But, as you see, where we're going with things is going towards the way of things being digital and biometrics, as I mentioned earlier, right? And again, mentioning with universal basic income, when you think of universal, think of common, something that is common to everybody. It's not foreign to you or I, right? And that's how the temptation is going to be. It's going to be common to all of us because it's going to affect everybody. That's why it says, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their forehead. That is common, universal to everybody. There's going to be a universal or common pressure. But also we see, of course, lack of work and things like that, which if I'm not mistaken, Isaiah 19 talks about there shall be no work for Egypt, if I'm not mistaken, right? Isaiah chapter 19 and verse 15, neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or tail, branch or rush may do. So there's no work in Egypt, right? This is spiritually Egypt. Excuse me. Right? And people are being pushed out of the workforce by AI. And that is intentional, right? It's not unintentional and things like that. And I'll end it with this precept here in 2 Ezra chapter 15 and verse 1. Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord. Right? So these words that we speak are not our words, it is the words of the Lord. And as you can see, all these things are coming to pass, beginning with the elders and apostles of Great Millstone warning you and things like that, warning you long before it became a lot more mainstream, if you will, with digital IDs and things like that. They warned you, and then we who came into their labors, followed after them, have warned of the same stuff, because this is what's coming to pass. This is what people are going to have to deal with. Verse 2, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. See, so these things are faithful and true. They're actually coming to pass right before your eyes. Regardless if you want to pay attention, like that individual that I work with, he can see it, or whether you want to ignore it or you don't see it. It still doesn't mean that the words of the Heavenly Father are not faithful and true. That's why they were written in paper, because these things are going to come to pass. These things are going to happen. Verse 3, fear not the imaginations against thee. Let not the incredulity, which is lack of belief or unbelief, of them trouble thee that speak against thee. Why? Verse 4, for all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. So because of your lack of belief, because of your lack of faith, you're going to die because of that. But I'll say this as well. Because of your lack of faith, you're also going to be heavily affected because of these things, because you didn't believe. And because you didn't believe, you were not able to spiritually prepare for the times ahead. So for that, you're going to be more in deeper waters, so to speak, than those that did believe and did prepare. So I'll end it here, especially with all this noise happening as well. But I pray and hope this video has been edifying. In ending, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles, elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect. Shalom.